overall voice. Dian-13 lay motionless on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. His body had grown haggard after 3 sleepless days in agony. His legs had been broken, and over those 3 days, his entire world slowly crumbled. He had once been the most loyal adopted son of Dian Huan, viewing the man as a father, a god, someone he revered more than anyone else. He had turned down offers from people like Zhuang Tan and Liu Vo Yam, choosing to stay by his adoptive father's side. Dian Huang had rescued him from the streets, trained him in martial arts, and given him a place to belong. But all that shattered the day Dian Huang personally broke his legs in a brutal beating, just to protect his casino interests. Even though Dian Huang later secretly apologized, reattached his bones, showered him with gold and the best doctors, it was all too late. His loyalty had been crushed at its roots. Dian-13 expected Shenlong to show up, to try and bribe him with money or rank to get him to betray his former father. And he was ready to spit in Shenlong's face. He didn't hate Shenlong deeply. In fact, he somewhat respected the young man's strength. But betrayal? Never. And yet, Shenlong never came. So when footsteps echoed outside the door, he thought it was Shenlong and prepared himself. But when the door opened, he saw 6 black-clad figures. Among them were people he recognized: Liu Sa Thun, a top assassin under Liu Vo Yam, and his own sworn brothers, Dian First and Dian Seventh. He immediately understood. His voice trembled. "Father sent you to kill me, didn't you?" No one answered. In a final act of defiance, he tore a piece of his own robe, symbolizing the severing of ties. Despite his injuries, he mustered the strength to say, "Do what you came for. Just, please, spare my parents. They know nothing." But Dian First coldly replied, "To uproot the weed, you must pull it out completely." And then, to his horror, his elderly parents were dragged in, forced to kneel before him, blades at their throats. Dian-13 roared in agony, blood rising in his throat. "Why? I never betrayed him. If anyone came to bribe me, I would have spit in their face." Dian First only said, "We can't afford to take chances." At that moment, all hope inside Dian-13 crumbled. But he wasn't done yet. In one final act of filial duty, he exploded with a burst of strength, hurling himself from the bed and knocking down the 2 assassins closest to his parents. With ferocity born from desperation, he whipped a hidden blade from his sleeve and slashed the throats of 2 attackers. Blood sprayed like fountains. Then, stab! Dian First drove his sword straight through Dian-13's chest, pinning him to the ground. Blood gushed. Still, he did not regret his actions. "Even if I couldn't save my parents, I had to try. That's what a son does." And in that instant, he understood Shenlong's earlier fury, when Shen had once begged Kim Mok-lan to save his own parents. He now grasped that same helpless, burning rage. Just as another blade was about to end his life, a blinding flash of light burst into the room. A delicate fragrance filled the air, followed by the sound of whirling steel. Kim Mok-lan had arrived. She descended like a goddess of war, beautiful and terrifying. With lightning speed, she struck down 4 of the assassins in a single motion. Their blades shattered, their arms were severed, blood flew. Dian First watched horrified as his own sword hand was lopped off cleanly. Only then did the group realize they were facing the princess of Shenwu City herself. Few people in the entire city could match her martial prowess, Dian Huang being perhaps the only one. Just then, Shenlong arrived, slightly out of breath. He blinked at the aftermath and asked innocently, "My dear wife, I didn't even get to see anything. Could you do that again for me?" The remaining assassins trembled. One clutched his remaining arm, collapsing into sobs. Shenlong praised his wife while mock whimpering, asking how she could be so strong yet still bring 3 masters to accompany her. She ignored him, but he quickly understood those guards were there to protect him, not her. Finally, Shenlong walked up to the bleeding Dian first and sneered. "Go back to Dian Huang and tell him, wash your neck and wait for death. And tell Liu Vo Yam and Chuang Tan, when you execute Dian Huang, invite me to watch. I've never seen a public beheading before."
68. A dangerous turnaround and the birth of a new name. After hearing Tamlang's cold words, Dien Dai's face twitched violently. He knew very well that his younger brother Dien 13 held countless secrets tied to both Dien Huang and the City Lord's mansion. If those secrets were to be exposed, it would trigger a political explosion capable of shaking the entire power structure. Dien Huang, ever cunning and calculated, had always treated Dien 13 like a ticking bomb. Now that bomb had fallen into the hands of Tamlang, once belittled, now a growing threat that could no longer be ignored. Tamlang said nothing more. With a calm tone, he declared that he would take Dien 13 away. The 4 assassins, who had earlier witnessed Kim Moklan's terrifying strength, dared not resist. When Tamlang sarcastically told them to wait until you pass along the message before dying, none of them could reply. Faces pale, they backed away in silence. Inwardly, Dien Dai was boiling with rage. "If it weren't for that terrifying wife of yours, I'd have torn you apart already," he thought bitterly. Outwardly, however, he and his men kept their heads bowed, not daring to meet Kim Moklan's gaze. The 4 assassins, one missing a hand, quickly withdrew, riding past the cavalry from the Earl's estate who had surrounded the outpost. The Black Robe gang had been completely wiped out at the scene. Back in the chamber, Tamlang approached Dien 13, who was still pinned to the ground by a sword. Calmly, Tamlang tried to pull it out with one hand, but had to use both as the blade had sunk deep into the floor. There were no bribes, no promises of wealth or position, just a silent moment. Dien 13, having witnessed his parents saved by Tamlang, dropped to his knees without a word. He bowed 3 times, forehead to the ground. It wasn't just surrender, it was absolute submission. From this moment on, he was no longer Dien Huang's pawn, he was Tamlang's loyal hound. Tamlang stared at him and casually asked, "Why the tears? Are you upset?" Dien 13 wiped his eyes and immediately replied, "No, master." And so he was given a new name, Tam 13, symbolizing the rebirth of his identity and loyalty. Tamlang then warned him, "Your parents will be taken to the Earl's estate. If you betray me, they'll vanish without a trace." Kim Moklan, who stood silently nearby, watched with a conflicted heart. She loved Tamlang, but witnessing him use such psychological precision and ruthlessness left her uneasy. Feigning empathy, Tamlang then knelt beside Tam 13, helping him up as if he cared. "You're still injured. Why kneel on such cold ground?" Back at the City Lord's mansion, Liu Vunyam turned pale upon hearing that the assassination had failed. 2 of his 6 killers were his own men, and they were dead. Worse, Dien 13 had fallen into Tamlang's hands. He knew the consequences. Dien 13 had been deeply involved in the gang's inner dealings and illegal operations. If he spilled the truth, Liu Vunyam could face exposure of countless crimes and connections to powerful figures. A subordinate advised quietly, "Sir, Dien Huang can no longer be protected." But Liu Vunyam hesitated. Killing Dien Huang would mean severing a massive financial pipeline. Every year, he received 2 hefty payouts from Dien Huang's illicit profits. Elsewhere, Tru Tan, another influential figure backing Dien Huang, received the bad news and rode urgently to meet his father Trang Chung. The elder, far more politically savvy, coldly ordered, "Then do what must be done." Tru Tan wavered. Dien Huang gave them 35% of his profits annually. Killing him would cut off that golden goose. but Chung Chung had a broader vision. To defeat the Earl of Swanmu, we must be patient like the Black Turtle. Don't rush into a small battle and lose the entire war. Tutan clenched his fists in frustration. He remembered how Dian Huang had once ordered Dian 13's legs broken for the smallest mistake. Now to kill Dian Huang would feel like he was slapping himself across the face, humiliating and painful. Back at the Black Robe Gang stronghold, Dian Huang was trembling. He realized Tumlong had timed the rescue perfectly. Not too early, not too late. He allowed Dian 13 to taste despair before saving him, ensuring deep emotional loyalty. Dian Huang had committed countless sins, murders, bribes, cover-ups, political deals. If even a portion of those were revealed, he would be finished. He looked up at the ceiling, thinking back to his youth, the brotherhood with his sworn father, and the many people he thought he could trust. But now in this silent chamber, he knew it was over. The end was coming. The young man they once dismissed had turned into a storm sweeping through their power structure. Tears ran down his cheeks, not out of fear, but out of helpless rage. If only he could turn back time, he swore he would have killed Tumlong the moment they met. The pieces are in place. The board is set. In the shadows, swords are being drawn for the final purge to come.
Overall voice. Opening voice, quiet, tense, as if something is about to happen. Secret discovery voice, shocked, excited, full of surprise. Dialogue voice, sharp, strong, tense, as Shen Lang and Den Hong confront each other. Dealing voice, decisive, scheming, and full of confidence. Change in attitude voice, soft, confused, as Shen Lang realizes the price and the reason. Ending voice, decisive, strong, confident, and ruthless as Shen Lang prepares to plot his revenge. Den Huang, I will lead you to death. After bidding farewell to Zhang Sung and An Wo Qi outside the Count's estate, Shen Lang and City Lord Lu Wo Nam returned to the main hall. Though the City Lord wore a courteous smile to maintain formality, his eyes were cold, filled with thinly veiled contempt. Den Huang, now restrained by two guards, kept glaring at Shen Lang with blazing hatred, as though he wanted to tear him apart. He hadn't expected his meticulously laid plan to collapse so completely. Everything had been prepared, using the trial of Song Song's death to gather senior officials, manipulate the mob outside to scream for Shen Lang's execution, all orchestrated perfectly. Yet the result was a disaster. Shen Lang not only survived, but turned the tables in a devastating counterattack, exposing the entire scheme. Den Huang was consumed by fury. He clenched his teeth and swore that one day he'd flip the situation back. Shen Lang stepped forward with a cold smile. Well, well, gangmaster himself. Why do you look like you've just seen a ghost? You're celebrating too early, Den Huang growled. Not really, Shen Lang said coolly. I just know that while you're alive, this feud will never end, so I'll have to send you off personally to have peace of mind. Den Huang sneered. You want me dead? Huh, dream on. I'll be out of jail in 3 days, untouched. The City Lord's prison is like my second home. He even declared that he would abandon all his gambling operations, handing them over to others, and devote himself entirely to one cause, to ruin Shen Lang's life, slowly and painfully. Shen Lang looked at him like a dead man walking. He didn't voice it, but in his mind he thought, "You've made it onto my death list. You really think I'll let you live?" His smile turned icy. Den Huang, your death is near. Den Huang burst into mocking laughter. Who do you think you are? A worthless live-in son-in-law thinks he can kill me? Even City Lord Lu Wo Nam looked at Shen Lang with disdain. In his eyes, Shen Lang was a weakling who didn't deserve a second glance. Luo Nam coldly stated, "Let's see who gets summoned to the City Lord's office tomorrow." Then, he turned and left in haste, not wanting to linger and lose face in front of the officials who had just departed. Outside the Count's estate, over 1,000 citizens hadn't dispersed. They continued to chant, "Execute Shen Lang, a life for a life." An Wo-ki and Zhang Sung climbed into their carriages without a word. But as Den Huang tried to follow, Zhang Sung suddenly turned and spoke coldly. "Who permitted you to be present at tonight's hearing?" Den Huang instantly dropped to his knees and admitted his fault. He knew full well he shouldn't have been involved in a case tied directly to his personal vendetta. But his hatred had overwhelmed him. He had wanted to see Shen Lang executed with his own eyes. Now that the plan had failed, he was desperately trying to salvage the situation. "There's still a chance," Den Huang pleaded. "We can bring back that woman, Tong, and force her to change her testimony. If she retracts her statement, Shen Lang can still be convicted." He was confident that if Zhang Sung gave the order, Count Mo Kui would have no choice but to comply. Neither An Wo-ki nor Zhang Sung responded. An Wo-ki simply stepped into his carriage. Zhang Sung stared at Den Huang, his eyes sharp as knives. "You still think this is just a game of strategy?" he asked coldly. Den Huang's expression froze. Zhang Sung continued, his voice low and threatening. "Shen Lang doesn't just want to win this case, he wants you dead." The words hit Den Huang like a thunderbolt. Yes, Shen Lang did want him dead, but how? With just Tong's testimony? Could that alone bring him down? No, he thought. I still have the City Lord. I have allies. But then Zhang Song said the chilling words, "Go kill Den Tap Thumb. If you're lucky, you might still survive." With that, he shut the carriage door and ordered the coachman to drive straight to Jiangsu, not stopping for anything. At that moment, Luo Nam and Zhang Tan finally realized the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about murder anymore. Shen Lang had aimed for the roots of their power. Den Huang's arrest was only the beginning. If all of his past crimes were dug up, there would be no way to protect him. And Den Tap Thumb, his most trusted lieutenant, knew everything. If he talked, Den Huang was finished. "We must kill him! Kill Den Tap Thumb before it's too late!" 3 elite assassin teams were dispatched immediately, quietly exiting the city and racing towards Den Tap Thumb's residence on the outskirts. Inside the Count's estate, Shen Lang urgently ordered his wife, "Wife, get on the horse, now! Do you know martial arts?" Mo Lan calmly nodded. "Yes, I'm quite good." "Are you strong enough to take on elite assassins from all 3 major factions?" Still calm, Mo Lan replied, "Trust me." There was no time to argue. Shen Lang jumped on the horse with her, clinging to her like an octopus. Their party galloped into the night towards the outskirts to protect Den Tap Thumb. On the way, Jin Zhang asked, "Why didn't we go sooner?" Jin Chong replied, "If we went too early, the enemy wouldn't have revealed themselves. We needed them to act first to capture solid evidence and strike back." Shen Lang nodded in agreement. "You're clever this time, Jin Chong, outshining Jin Zhang for once." In the outskirts of Swenwu City, Den Tap Thumb's residence, a dozen black-clad assassins surrounded the estate. 2 figures led the operation, Den Dai and Den Bei, adopted sons of Den Huang and his most trusted killers. As they approached the door, Den Dai said coldly, "Tap Thumb, don't blame our father figure. You know too much. If you live, he dies." Den Bei stepped forward, continuing, "Don't blame Oz not showing mercy. The father figure has ordered and there is no way around it. If you're going to die, then it's better to do it quickly and painlessly." They both raised their swords, ready to strike.